From the Fidelity Bank Foundation studio, PBS Kansas presents One-on-One with Victor Hogstrom.
This is where the dreamers and doers of Kansas come to talk about their lives and careers and the lessons learned along the way. My guest this week is a woman whose life story intersects with our region's past, present, and future. Her roots are in Wichita, but her journey has spanned states, courtrooms, classrooms, and centuries of history. She's a scholar, a storyteller, and a leader who has dedicated her life to uncovering hidden truths and preserving the voices of the forgotten. She is an historian and educator, Barb Myers. Barb has mapped lost cemeteries, unearthed segregated burial grounds, and helped reshape how Kansans see their own history. Coming up, we'll talk about her early life, her relentless curiosity, and how personal tragedy almost derailed her mission. We'll discuss the power of place, the importance of memory, and why history is never truly buried. A fascinating half hour is ahead as we go one-on-one with historian Barb Myers right now. Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Victor Hogstrom, and I'm delighted to welcome a woman who has devoted her life to history, education, and leading change right here in Wichita and beyond. She is Barb Myers. Barb, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let's begin by asking you to describe your early life, which included a military upbringing.
Well, I was actually born here in Wichita. After my first couple of years, my dad, we ended up moving out of state. We traveled all over the country. I ended up at, I think I counted 6 different bases before he retired.
Ooh.
So 4 different states and Guam. And we ended up back here. And that's when I started college and got into adult life.
Well, that then brings the question to mind, what sparked your interest in history, specifically in mapping cemeteries and unearthing burial grounds?
Well, I have always had an interest in history. I always wanted to be a history teacher. I don't remember a time in my life I ever didn't want to be a history teacher. But as I grew up and moved around the country, I realized there was more history than just being a teacher. So I took a class at some point during my graduate studies actually, and realized that most of the people that we were studying were in specific cemeteries, and that just kind of led to being a cemetery historian.
So you didn't grow up thinking you want to be a cemetery historian?
No, just a historian.
A historian.
Mm-hmm.
So in your mapping up of burial grounds, what did you discover? What is that wow moment?
When I realized that there were way more segregated cemeteries in Kansas than you would ever be led to believe. Kansas was formed as a free state, so why would I have thought that we would ultimately have found a total of 85 cemeteries in Kansas that were segregated? That was a definite wow. That was an eye-opener for me.
And so you went about doing what with it?
So after I finished the work that I could do at the cemetery I was doing work at the time, I decided to move back to North Carolina, which was where I had been to high school, and ended up working for the state of North Carolina doing a GIS project mapping segregated cemeteries in North Carolina.
Okay. And so you brought that practice to Wichita.
Mm-hmm.
And so why did your connection to history then endure through different careers?
Because we all have history. We all have a story to tell. And we all end up in a cemetery. The fact that we all have a story to tell and that we all have done something in our lives that maybe we're not doing now. If you talk to people and ask them, tell me about a time when, they'll go back 20, 30 years to a time that doing something that they enjoyed. And I feel like we can learn something from that.
You mentioned segregated cemeteries. So in your research, how did you begin your thesis on segregated Kansas cemeteries?
The first cemetery I worked at was at Highland Cemetery here in Wichita. It's the oldest cemetery in Wichita. And there was a very specific section for African Americans, and I wanted to know why.
And what do you do? What's the why? What's the answer to that?
Well, as it turned out, Highland Cemetery itself has a section that was primarily for African Americans that wanted their own section. Okay, there's a separation there, but not specifically because they were told they had to. But in doing that research, I found at least 3 other cemeteries in Wichita that did have it in their contract, that one race was not allowed to be buried next to another. And I thought, that is astounding. Why would that even be a practice? I had no idea there is even such a thing. So that really took off from there.
So Barb, what did discovering these segregated cemetery reveal to you about Kansas?
Finding towns in places, you know, when you're in school, especially in Kansas, you hear about towns like Nicodemus. And you might hear about the 4 original colonies that were formed in Kansas. But to find out that other towns had sundown laws and segregated areas of town, and that's not something that you hear about all the time in school. And I felt like that story needed to be told.
Sundown laws in the cemetery business, what is that?
Well, in the town, it meant that people of certain races, in other words, African Americans, were not allowed to be in the town after sundown.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know that term until I started researching cemeteries.
Right. So as a result of your research, and how do you perceive that Kansas see their own history?
I think we need to realize that there is a part of history that we aren't always told. I think we need to be understanding of the fact that certain groups of certain races, maybe in our state, their stories are not being told correctly.
So what are the parts of history that haven't been told correctly?
For instance, about the segregated towns. One of the towns that I did work in was just north and east of Wichita, and had 2 entirely different cemeteries, a black and a white cemetery. Not a topic that would be discussed every day, but it turns out that the town originated as a segregated town.
And so the cemetery then being segregated was not by fluke?
No.
Or not because
No.
one group wanted their own?
No.
It was just designed to be that way?
Yes.
I see. Why do cemeteries matter, and what do they teach us today?
Cemeteries teach us where we come from, and keeping in mind that we're all going to end up in one someday. I think that we need to learn respect, responsibility. We need to understand that we all come from somewhere, and we're all going to end up in the same place.
And there's one particular cemetery in Wichita that is of significance, and it's Highland Cemetery.
Yes.
Why is it?
Highland is the oldest cemetery in Wichita. It was founded in 1870. And there are many races out there. There are many religions out there. There is a Jewish cemetery attached to it. We can learn a lot from each other just by wandering the cemetery and seeing who's buried there.
You returned to school at age 40, and during that time you also experienced a personal loss. How did that affect you?
I was getting ready to graduate. I was in what I thought was going to be my final semester. And I found out that my partner of almost a year had died. I was aware that I hadn't talked to him for a couple of days, and I sent somebody over to his house to check on him, and they found him. and I almost quit. I almost quit because I could not handle him not being there. He had supported me. He believed in me. And not that I didn't have other people that believed in me, but it means a lot when somebody believes in something that's so obscure, and he did. When I was taking my comps and I found out how I had not passed that semester, I told my department chair, Dr. J. Price, that I was going to quit. I told him I can't do this anymore. And he looked me right in the eyes and he said, "No, you're not. No, you are not going to quit."
Because your partner had passed away.
Mm-hmm. And I did quit for the summer. As you should do, you back up and regroup. And I started back in the following fall and basically haven't quit since. But it was hard. It was really hard.
So as you go about your work, what memories do you keep of him?
I feel like he still watches me sometimes. Every so often I'll see a cardinal and it'll make me think of him. I know that he would want me to keep going. And sometimes I tell him, okay, but only for you. Because sometimes it is hard to keep fighting. But I know that that's something he would want me to do.
Well, I'm sorry about your loss.
Thank you.
Let's continue by asking which project had the biggest impact, mapping, digitizing, or transcribing?
The biggest impact, honestly, was the transcription project I did. When I first got to North Carolina, I was asked to be a part of a property records transcription project. And by project, I do mean slaves. They were transcribing sale receipts.
Mm-hmm.
And to realize that you're transcribing receipts for human lives. That I did for, I want to say maybe 6 months. That I think had a huge impact on my life, because you realize these are people, and that's what we do for.
Mm-hmm. And then you decided then to come back to Wichita.
I did. Mm-hmm.
What drew you back to Wichita, and how did returning to Wichita feel? How was it different from the time you were here before?
I didn't really know what to expect. I'd been gone for 3 years. I had learned about as much as I thought I was going to be able to learn while I was gone, and it was time to come home. When I was on my way back, I found out that my mother was ill and needed my help. So it kind of felt like I was supposed to be coming back. It all kind of fell in line. But coming back, I found a lot of things had changed and a lot of things hadn't.
What you found that did not change? I mean, was it more difficult or much easier? What's the story?
Well, in 3 years' time, the city government changed. The people I was talking to changed. A lot of people within the city had changed. So, time marches on and people leave jobs and everything. But walking into the cemetery, it was the cemetery. It was welcoming me home.
You're also a leader in your field. What does that mean?
I have to be responsible. So I have a Facebook page that has almost 17,000 followers. It's a Wichita history page. Mm-hmm. And when something comes up that everyone on the page wants to know more about, and everyone on the page wants to have an opinion on, you have to go in sometimes and weed out the fact from the opinion. But when something comes up having to do with the cemetery that ends up in almost 7,000 opinions, it's time to get involved.
What's been the biggest issues that have come up?
Well, with the cemetery, there have been situations of vandalism. There have been situations of flooding. People go to visit their family and they can't find the stone. And those kinds of things do happen, but is it because it sunk into the ground or is it because it got stolen? It takes a little investigation sometimes.
And what have you found?
Sometimes we have found stones in people's yards. People have contacted me through the page and said, I just found a stone in my backyard. I didn't take it, but what am I supposed to do with this? And so I go over and get it and find out where it belongs. There have been a few that belonged in Highland, and there have been a few that belonged, I think one of them we took out to Rose Hill one time. It takes being able to locate records, to do the research, to find out where they belong, and then do the right thing. And I think being a leader means responsibility.
So true. But Barb, why do people vandalize cemeteries? I mean, what's the goal?
I have
What's
no idea.
the purpose?
I don't know. When people take stones, I think maybe they think it's going to be some yard art, or maybe they value the marble, or I really don't know. But when all they do is go into a cemetery and topple a stone, are they just bored? I don't know. I wish I did.
So do you agree that preserving local history through cemeteries is challenging?
Yes.
What are the challenges?
Well, in some cases you have to deal with the owners of the cemeteries. More often than not, you have to, by law, you have to deal with the families of the person in the grave. You have to actually contact the family. You have to do the research to find the family. Actually digging, actual physical labor is involved, research, marketing, you know, all of the things involved with running a nonprofit as one would expect.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I don't think in the 10 years that I've been involved with this, I've ever had someone tell me, no, they didn't want me to do this. I can't think of once.
I have to ask a personal question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you make a living from this?
No.
Why do you do it?
You don't get into being a historian for money. You get into it for love.
Jay Price makes money. He makes a living of being a historian.
And all respect to Dr. Price. I will always and forever respect him for everything he's done for me. But he teaches, he writes, he does talks.
Oh, that's the difference, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He does different type of historianing than I do, I think.
Okay. We usually play a little game on this program, so we have one for you too.
Okay.
It's a word association game, and I'll say a word or phrase, and you give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right, first word is Wichita.
Home.
Ghosts.
Not real.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ghosts are not real.
Okay, if you say so.
Well, spirits. Spirits would be more of an accurate word. People say ghosts, like, you know, the white sheets.
Right, but people take spirits to be ghosts and
Okay.
ghosts to be spirits. So you still say it's not real?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay. Injustice.
Black cemeteries. They're not getting near enough work done at them.
Black cemeteries.
Yes.
Cemeteries.
My obsession.
So true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The past.
I know it sounds ironic, but we have to put our past behind us and work towards the future.
Your younger self.
I think she expected totally different things from what I'm doing now.
What did she expect?
Oh, I think young Barb thought I was going to be a history teacher, so I was going to be, you know, in a classroom, and that's not where I've ended up.
Power.
The ability to make change.
Loss.
Carl.
Back to Carl again, huh? family,
I have a very strong family.
forgotten.
A lot of cemeteries.
Okay. What do you feel when you go into a historical site?
I feel like somebody has put time and energy into keeping that memory. You know, if you go into a museum or if you go into an outdoor museum like Cowtown, for instance, if you go into a cemetery, I feel like somebody has put their heart and soul into it.
Barb, what excites you in this work?
When somebody says to me, I remember when you helped me find my grandparents a few years ago on a tour you gave. And I may not remember them, but they remembered me, and they remembered that I helped them. That excites me.
So then, do you feel that history keeps calling you back?
Yes. Yes.
How?
Well, any time I've ever walked away from it, it's come back and found me.
Okay. So when it is all said and done, Barb, what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I hope that people will remember the work that I did, specifically at Highland, but for cemeteries and for preservation. And I hope that the people that I have helped do the same.
Tell us, what do you like best and least about the job you do?
I very much like making change. I very much like going out to cemeteries and actually finding a grave that's been lost. I really hate bureaucracy. And sometimes there's a lot of red tape that has to go into getting that goal.
And talk about goals. What goals or goal yet to be achieved do you have in mind?
I'm not sure. I don't really make huge goals for myself because things always change. I know what my calling is. I know what I feel like I should be doing, but I don't know what in 5 or 10 years what that'll look like. I know that I'm still going to be studying history and preserving. So if that's a goal, that's my goal.
So specifically describe that calling.
I have always, my whole life known I was going to study history. And that will never change. I get excited when I go into a library and find a new book about something to do with cemetery preservation. Or when somebody tells me about something they read about something that happened recently in an article. Or some new cemetery that was found somewhere that had been lost. Or when a gravesite is found underneath a parking lot in England. Anything having to do with it, I get very excited.
Have you traveled the world to work on grave sites?
Not the world, but I've been all over the country.
Okay. What has been your biggest missed opportunity, in your opinion?
I'm not sure. I probably put it out of my head. I didn't think much about it after that. If I missed it, I went back to try it again, probably. So if you have to understand, I'm very stubborn. When I decide I want to do something, I'm going to do it. So when I was told by the city, no, we don't think we're going to let you do this project, I waited and we're doing this project.
Why would the city stop you from doing a project?
Well, if, the city owns Highland Cemetery. A property, when a cemetery is left abandoned, the governing authority has to take it over. So Highland Cemetery and the adjacent mausoleum are owned by the city. If, for instance, the city had said, well, we don't want you to do the work at this time for whatever reason, I would just wait a while and come back and ask them again.
Okay. And you get it your way.
Well, it's for the greater good, so I'm going to keep going, yes.
How has your work, I should say, changed lives?
I have been able to help people find family that they knew was in the cemetery. They knew when they were a child they'd seen the stone there. The stone maybe sunk into the ground or had been moved. And we have helped dozens of people that I can think of find their ancestors. When I did the GIS mapping project in North Carolina, we made that available to people, and that was invaluable because now people in North Carolina who had African American ancestors, maybe slaves, were able to find graves of their family that they'd never been able to find otherwise. And that is so powerful.
Historian Barbara Myers, thank you so much for taking the time to go one-on-one.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. If you have a question or comment, please email us at oneonone@kpts.org. Until next time, I'm Victor Hogstrom. Be well, and I'll see you again soon.